My partner fired me and kept my company. So I started a new one and buried him. The board voted. Your vision is too risky. We're letting you go, effective immediately. My business partner and best friend of 15 years, Bryce, said. He wouldn't meet my eyes, instead staring at the polished conference table in the office I had designed. The words didn't feel real. AuraFlow Tech is my life, I said, my voice hollow. I built the core platform in my garage. We built it, Bryce corrected, his tone suddenly sharp. And now we've decided to pivot. The board feels your sentimentality is holding us back from true profitability. He slid a severance agreement toward me. Sign this, and this can be amicable. I looked at the man I'd considered a brother. We'd celebrated our first million in this very room. Now, he was firing me from my own creation. I felt a cold stillness settle over me, freezing the panic in its tracks. I see, I said, my voice eerily calm. I picked up the pen, scrawled my name, and stood up. 2 years later, my new company's product launch captured 80% of AuraFlow's market share in 6 months. And when Bryce came begging me to sell him my technology, I gave him the same consideration he'd given me. None. Justice must be restored and arrogance punished. You won't believe what I did next. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening from in the comments. For 15 years, AuraFlow Tech was my identity. It started with 2 college friends, Bryce and me, Ashton, coding through nights, fueled by cheap pizza and a shared dream. Bryce was the charismatic frontman, the one who could charm investors. I was the quiet architect, the one who turned his grand promises into elegant, functioning code. We were a perfect team. We grew from a garage operation to a sleek downtown office with 50 employees. Bryce loved the spotlight, the magazine features, the industry panels. I was happy in the background, perfecting our software. I trusted him completely. He handled the finances, the board meetings, the business side of things, while I led the engineers. The first whisper of trouble was a proposed strategic pivot. Bryce and the new board members he'd appointed started talking about monetizing user data and aggressive price restructuring. I argued it was a betrayal of our core principle, user privacy and affordability. You're being naive, Ash, Bryce said, clapping me on the back. This is just business. We have to grow up sometime. I should have seen it then. The dismissive tone. The way he started holding board meetings without me. But I believed in our partnership. I thought we could work it out. The end came on a Tuesday. I was summoned to the main conference room. Bryce was there with the entire board. There were no pleasantries. The board voted. Your vision is too risky. We're letting you go, effective immediately, Bryce said. He cited creative differences and a need for more pragmatic leadership. He presented my passion for our original mission as a liability. The severance agreement was generous, but it included a non-compete clause that felt like a chain. I signed it, my hand moving automatically, my mind already 1,000 miles away. The shock lasted a week. I drifted through my empty house, the silence deafening. Out of habit, I logged into the old admin portal for AuraFlow, a backdoor access I'd created for system maintenance that Bryce never knew about. My login still worked. I wasn't snooping. I was just saying goodbye. But then I saw it. A folder labeled Project Phoenix. Inside were development plans, financial projections, and design mock-ups. It was a completely new platform, and it was built entirely on the core architecture I had designed. My heart hammered in my chest. I dug deeper, into the financial records I'd always trusted Bryce to handle. I found massive, unauthorized transfers to a shell company I didn't recognize. Cross-referencing the dates, I realized the money had been siphoned off during our last funding round, money that was meant for server expansion. He had been starving my department of resources, all while planning to scrap my work and rebuild without me. The final blow was an email chain between Bryce and the lead investor. Bryce had written, Ashton is a brilliant coder, but he's a child when it comes to business. Once we have his system fully mapped, he's expendable. Project Phoenix will be leaner, meaner, and entirely under my control. The betrayal wasn't a difference of opinion. It was a calculated, long-planned assassination. He never wanted a partner. He wanted a blueprint. The grief vanished, replaced by a cold, focused clarity. I became a ghost in AuraFlow's machine. Using my admin access, I began a methodical harvest. I downloaded every incriminating file, the Project Phoenix documents, the fraudulent financial transfers, the damning email chains. I used a screen recorder to capture my every click, creating an undeniable chain of evidence. I reached out to a former colleague, a brilliant data analyst named Liam, whom Bryce had fired for asking too many questions. I showed him what I had. He did the same thing to me, just on a smaller scale, Liam said, his anger a mirror of my own. He's been playing everyone. Together, we built a case. Liam used his skills to trace the siphoned funds, uncovering a web of shell companies that all led back to Bryce's brother-in-law. We documented everything in a timeline, connecting each lie to a financial decision. I even found recorded board meeting minutes where Bryce explicitly told the investors I was burned out and unable to keep up with the company's direction, all while he was presenting my work as his own. We weren't just gathering evidence, we were building a weapon. And we made sure every piece was obtained in a way that would be admissible in court. This wasn't a hack, it was an audit, conducted by the system's original architect. With the evidence secure, I began phase 2. The non-compete clause in my severance was brutal, but it was specific to the data analytics market. It said nothing about the underlying data security technology that made analytics possible. That had always been my true passion. I rented a cheap warehouse on the outskirts of the city. It was a far cry from the glass tower of AuraFlow. Liam joined me, and we used our severance pay to buy servers. Our mission was simple: build something Bryce could never touch, something that would make AuraFlow obsolete. We worked in near total secrecy. For 18 months, we lived on coffee and takeout, working 20-hour days. Midpoint hook. What Bryce never understood was that the true genius of AuraFlow wasn't the analytics platform he sold to clients. It was the revolutionary, unbreakable encryption protocol I had woven into its foundation. A protocol I had deliberately kept hidden in plain sight, never filing a separate patent for it. It was my secret masterwork. Our new company, Fortress Data, was built on that protocol. We didn't sell analytics. We sold unbreachable digital vaults. Our first client was a major healthcare network terrified of data breaches. When we demonstrated our technology by inviting their best white-hat hackers to try and break in, and they failed, we landed a multi-million-dollar contract. The money started flowing. We hired carefully, bringing on other talented people Bryce had cast aside. We cultivated a reputation for quiet, ruthless excellence. To the outside world, Fortress Data was a mysterious, reclusive startup. Bryce, busy touting his new and improved AuraFlow Phoenix, didn't even see us coming. The launch of Fortress Data's flagship product, the Citadel, sent shockwaves through the industry. Tech journals called it a generational leap in data security. Almost overnight, AuraFlow's new platform, which was built on vulnerable, older infrastructure, was seen as a liability. I watched from a distance as the dominoes began to fall. AuraFlow's biggest client, a national bank, publicly announced it was switching to Fortress Data, citing superior security foundations. AuraFlow's stock price began a slow, sickening slide. My phone rang. It was Bryce. I let it go to voicemail. Ashton, heard the news. Congrats, really. Look, we should talk. There might be a synergy here. Give me a call. His voice was strained, the fake charm barely covering the panic. I didn't return the call. A week later, Liam told me Bryce had tried to poach one of our junior engineers, offering double the salary. The engineer immediately forwarded the offer to me. I authorized a counteroffer with a loyalty bonus, and he stayed. Bryce was bleeding. His expensive marketing for AuraFlow Phoenix was failing because he couldn't fix the fundamental weakness of his product, its inferior core. He had built a fancy car with a faulty engine, and everyone was starting to hear the knock. The desperation led him to my doorstep. Bryce and 2 of his board members showed up at our warehouse office, unannounced. The looks on their faces as they walked through our functional, no-frills space was a story in itself. We met in our small conference room, a room filled with whiteboards covered in complex code, not corporate buzzwords. Ashton, Bryce began, forcing a smile. This is impressive. Truly. We misjudged you. He launched into his pitch about synergy and healing old wounds. He proposed a merger. Imagine it. Your security tech combined with AuraFlow's market reach. We'd be unstoppable. I let him finish. I waited for the room to fall completely silent. There's just one problem, Bryce, I said, my voice calm. I nodded to Liam, who brought in a file. I slid a single sheet of paper across the table. It was a screenshot of the email where he called me expendable. The color drained from his face. Where did you get that? You've been so focused on building your phoenix, I said. You never noticed I still had the keys to the old kingdom. I know about the siphoned funds. I know about Project Phoenix. I know you built your new company on my stolen work. One of the board members, an older woman named Patricia, looked at Bryce, horrified. You told us the architecture was yours, she said. It was a collaborative effort. Bryce sputtered. Then why fire the collaborator? I asked. I looked at Patricia. Check the server logs from last year. You'll find the original source code for your new platform was accessed and copied months before I was terminated. The meeting collapsed. The board members left in a hurry, their silence louder than any accusation. The story, of course, leaked. A detailed, anonymous account of the meeting and Bryce's betrayal appeared in a major tech publication the next day. The source, of course, was me. The fallout was swift and brutal. AuraFlow's stock plummeted. The SEC opened an investigation into the financial fraud we had uncovered. Bryce was sued by his own board for misrepresentation and breach of fiduciary duty. His major investors pulled out, and AuraFlow entered bankruptcy proceedings within 4 months. The company we had built from nothing was picked apart and sold for scraps. Bryce was personally ruined, facing lawsuits that would likely wipe out his personal wealth. Meanwhile, Fortress Data was now the industry gold standard. We were approached for acquisition by tech giants, but I refused. We didn't need saving. I used a portion of our new wealth to establish a foundation that helped other founders protect their intellectual property from predatory partners. We offered legal grants and tech audits. The first person I helped was a young woman whose partner was trying to steal her AI algorithm. It felt like closing a circle. The narrative in the press was clear. Bryce was the cautionary tale of greed, and I was the quiet genius who had upheld his principles and won. The industry's respect was the final, satisfying piece of the reckoning. He came to my home one evening. I saw him through the window, standing on my porch in the rain, a shattered version of the confident man I'd once known. I opened the door. He looked old. Ashton, he said, his voice raw. I have no words for what I did. I was greedy. I was scared. I saw you as the talent, and I was just the talker. I thought if I didn't take control, I'd end up as nothing. I didn't invite him in. You were my friend, Bryce. That was all that ever mattered. I know, he whispered. Is there any way back? Any way to fix this? I looked at him, this man who had been my brother, and felt a distant pang of sorrow, but no warmth. No, I said, and the word was final. There's no fixing this. You didn't just take my company. You broke our friendship. That's not something you can put back together. I told him I wouldn't pursue him personally in the lawsuits, that I had what I wanted. You taught me a brutal lesson, Bryce. You taught me to trust my work over pretty words. In a twisted way, it was the push I needed to build something truly great on my own terms. He nodded, a tear mixing with the rain on his cheek. He turned and walked away, back into the storm. I closed the door, not with a slam, but with a soft, definitive click. Today, Fortress Data is a testament to integrity, a company known as much for its culture as its technology. I'm married to a brilliant artist who never cared about my net worth, only about the man who came home covered in whiteboard marker. We have a young son. The other day, he was building a castle out of blocks. It was intricate and clever. He looked up at me and said, "Papa, look what I made." I knelt down beside him. "It's amazing, buddy," I said. "Remember, no one can ever tell you what you can't build. The only limits are the ones you accept." He just smiled, not understanding the weight of the lesson, but feeling its truth. I had taken the poison of betrayal and, through sheer will, transformed it into a foundation for my son's future. The revenge was complete, but the life I built after was the real victory.
If this story got you thinking, go ahead and hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe for more real stories that hit deep, and tap the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. And hey, if you know someone who needs to hear this one, share it with them. Thanks for watching.